Well, with Anthony Smith's incredible victory in the main event of UFC Fight Night 134, I figured really there was no better time than to tell the story of the first time I met the man known as Lionheart. It was April 4th, 2010. I actually was able to look it up. I knew because it was the day after I had done a commentary event in New Jersey. It was an M1 selection event. Myself and Mike Straka were on the call. I was in the airport on the way home, and probably to no one's surprise, I was having a frosty beverage or two to kill some time on the layover. Guy walks up to me, big, strong, young guy. He says, "Hey, my name is Anthony Smith. I just wanted to introduce myself. You're going to be covering me in the UFC someday." Anthony hadn't even been fighting on that card. He was just there cornering a teammate, but he saw him in the airport and he came up and wanted to introduce himself. Right away, I was struck by how well spoken he was, how confident he was. I thought, man, maybe this is somebody to pay attention to. As soon as he walked away, I looked up his record online. He was 5-6 at the time in his career, and more importantly, he was on a 4-fight losing streak. Still, something stuck with me. I didn't know what it was. There was something about the kid that you had to like. Certainly liked the swagger and the confidence to come up and say where he was going to be. After that run, Anthony Smith went 12-3 in his next 15 fights, including 4 fights under the Strikeforce banner. That got him a call up to the UFC. His goal was accomplished. I was covering him in the UFC. But guess what? He lost. One and done in the UFC, and he was back out on the regional scene. The story could have easily ended there, I guess, but Anthony Smith was undeterred. He went 7-1 in his next 8 fights on the regional scene, and he got another call-up to the UFC. It's crazy to think that Anthony Smith even competed in the middleweight division. When you stand next to him, he's a huge guy. He's big as a light heavyweight, and he seems to be one of these guys that's found that not cutting weight actually helps him perform better. More importantly, he now has 2 signature wins over 2 legends of the sport in Rashad Evans and Mauricio Shogun Rua. What's next for Anthony Smith remains to be seen. Certainly it's going to be a big fight, especially after proving victorious in his first UFC main event. But you gotta love the charisma that the guy brings to the table. He's not afraid to take a chance in his career. He's incredibly confident in himself, and you can tell he truly believes, just like that day when I first met Anthony Smith 8 years ago, when he was on a 4-fight losing streak, at a low point in his career, to have the guts and the belief in himself to come up and confidently say to me, "You're going to be covering my fights in the UFC one day." I gotta admit, it's been entertaining to watch his run, and you can't help but cheer for a guy like that.